Hello there, my name is Cheryl. I am the Asia partner of Make a Difference Summit for Asia and the CEO of LifeWorks. So excited with the upcoming Make a Difference Summit that we have been curating. And as a preamble and as we get started, I have with me Dr. Zoe Fortune, who is the founding CEO of City Mental Health Alliance in Hong Kong, who's going to be jumping in on a call with us and sharing with us her findings and her observations since 2017.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, come on in, Zoe. Whenever you're ready, jump on in. Is there anything that I have missed out before we get into the conversation proper?
No, I don't think so. Just to say thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today and to hopefully I can tell you a little bit more about our research findings as well. And I'm really pleased that mental health and well-being is a topic that's really coming to the fore in the workplace. So I think it's a great agenda item to be talking about. So thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Excellent. So I want to kick off first with, I think in Asia, one of the contexts is that it is a fairly new topic. It's a fairly unspoken of topic. And we know that for most transformation and change, leadership is key. So our theme this year is it starts at the top. And I know that you have just chaired a panel of senior leaders in conversation. Could you share a little with us with regards to the findings around senior leaders? How have they been coping with or talking about this topic, and what are some of their thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Cheryl. It's really, I think it's really interesting because 3 years ago, when we first launched CMHA, this was not a topic that we could readily gather people together on. We didn't have senior leaders who were as willing to approach the topic. So I think things are changing. And perhaps maybe this might be a controversial thing to say, but maybe that's a good legacy of COVID, that actually people are now talking about mental health and well-being, and the topic is coming to the fore. Because I think we've also got to know people on a personal level that we didn't before. We've seen insides of kitchens and met siblings and children and pets and all of those kind of things. And that means that we can get to know people on a different level. So what we are hearing, and I was really excited that we were able to do a senior leaders panel last week. And there were several findings that came out. And the first one of which was we had some sharing personal stories, which I think is incredibly, it sends the right message that it's about being led from the top, but it's also an appropriate message because it says that actually people who experience mental health problems or stress or vulnerability, this is a normal part of human experience. This isn't something that we should hide from. Actually, we can learn from those experiences. Mental health problems are something that most people recover from and go on to actually be very insightful on. And so I think that's a really important message. And it sends a message that you can get to the top of a position or something, and actually you're stronger for it. So number one, it was about that message. Number two is about, the conclusion was that mental health is about building a sustainable business. So we know that there is a business case and we know that there is a human case behind this. And actually 3 years ago, I think we were very much talking about the business case and the costs of mental ill health here in Hong Kong. And we did some data on that as well. But there has been, in my opinion, there's been a little bit of a subtle shift. And now we're talking about the human case, which is what it was all about all along. So we know that there is evidence around productivity and things like that. And I can come on to presenteeism data later. But it's about mental health should be integral to business sustainability and to creating an environment in which employees feel able to thrive. So what's the role of senior leaders in all of this? The role is to create a culture of empathy. That needs to be driven from the top. But it's about empowerment at every level of an organization. So we don't create systematic and systemic change across an organization if we don't empower employees at every level of an organization and make them feel part of this change. And our research has just found that actually no one size fits all. And so this is about getting to know others, understanding what works for them. What works for senior leaders doesn't necessarily work for junior staff, and about understanding different stresses at different stages of life. I think the other thing is about education and understanding. So stigma Stigma is still an issue. Mental health is not something that people always feel open to speak about. And so there is the stigma that still exists in the workplace, and we do have data on that. But the way that we address that and the way that we change that is about creating an environment and a culture of empathy and understanding, and knowing it's okay to reach out for help. And they're also recognizing that mental health is on a spectrum, and we are talking about good mental health here. We're not always talking about mental ill health, which everyone assumes that we are. So, you know, and people move up and down the spectrum. And we also know that COVID has had a massive impact on people's mental health and well-being. And so it's about recognizing where we are on that spectrum and where others are, and about being able to put in place strategies to support at every level of that stage, and that shouldn't be stigmatized. The other thing that we found, as I said, it's about empowerment. And I just made a note here of some words that came up multiple times throughout this session that we had. And they were the following words: trust, empathy, education, awareness, empowerment, normalization, sharing, culture, safety, and connecting. And just to pick up on a couple of those too. So normalization, it's part of creating a normal conversation. Everyone has mental health, whether that's poor or whether that's good. Just like everyone has physical health, it should be a part of a normal conversation. And connecting as well. And I've very much been saying, you know, we've all talked about social distancing. It's the word of 2020. But actually, we should be talking about physical distancing, really. Because we shouldn't socially disconnect because of this. Actually, we should be connecting more. So let's enhance the social connection and decrease the physical connection, if you see what I mean about physical distancing. And then the other thing that came out of the senior leaders panel that I wanted to mention is the expression was used, keep chipping away. So this is not something that's going to change overnight. We know that actually it takes somewhere between 18 months and 3 years for a mental health strategy to be implemented within an organization. So it's about small incremental changes. We might see big changes, we might see little changes, but it's about building on those changes that we have seen to keep chipping away at that stigma, keep raising awareness and understanding, doing all those kind of things that we put in place within an organization. I can talk through more of those if that's helpful, so that we can start to create change in this culture and create these workplaces where people can thrive.